The scissors sliced through pale rose silk. Cordelia held the blade up, threads still clinging to the metal, and smiled at her sister. "You actually believed someone would look at you tonight," Cordelia said. "You saved 18 months for this ugly thing. 18 months of hope. Watch it die." She slashed again and again, 3 cuts that shredded the fabric like skin. Rosalind did not scream. She stood frozen, watching the only beautiful thing she had ever owned fall to pieces. "Now your dress matches your future," Cordelia laughed. "Destroyed. Invisible. Nothing." Before we continue, subscribe to my channel and follow Rosalind's story to the end. Comment your city below so I can see how far her story travels. Rosalind picked up the ruined dress with shaking hands. 18 months, she whispered. "What was that?" Cordelia paused at the door. 18 months. Rosalind's voice cracked. "I copied manuscripts until my fingers bled. I sold Mother's old ribbons. I skipped meals. 18 months for one dress. One night where I might feel human." Cordelia rolled her eyes. "You could wear diamonds and still be invisible. That is not the dress's fault. That is simply what you are." She left. The door clicked shut. Rosalind sank to the floor, the torn silk pressed against her chest. She did not cry. She had stopped crying years ago. Tears only made her sisters laugh harder. The door burst open again. "Rosalind, why are you on the floor?" Her mother stood in the doorway, irritation sharpening every word. "Get up. We need to discuss tonight. My dress." Rosalind held up the shredded fabric. Cordelia destroyed it. Lady Helena glanced at the ruined gown. Her expression did not change. "Wear the lavender from last season. Mother, I saved for 18 months for this dress." Cordelia cut it to pieces in front of me. "Are you not going to say anything to her?" Lady Helena sighed, the sound heavy with decades of disappointment. "Rosalind, we do not have time for your dramatics. The Duke of Ravensdale will be at the Whitmore ball tonight. Your sister's future depends on this evening. Your future depends on this evening. The entire family's survival depends on Vivian securing that man. And what about what Cordelia did? What about it?" Lady Helena's eyes were cold. "You were never going to catch anyone's attention regardless of what you wore. At least now you can focus on being useful instead of nursing foolish hopes." She turned and walked away. Rosalind sat alone on the floor, surrounded by torn silk and shattered dreams. 30 minutes later, she stood outside her father's study. She had come to borrow a book, something to read in the carriage while her sisters strategized. But voices stopped her. 3 months, Edmund." Her mother's voice, sharp with panic. "We have 3 months before the creditors take everything. I know." Her father sounded broken. "I know, Helena. You promised you would stop gambling." "You swore to me. I tried. I thought I could win it back. I thought one more hand, one more race, one more what? One more excuse." "We are ruined, Edmund. Ruined. Our daughters will be penniless. Our name will be destroyed. Everything your father built, everything my family invested in this marriage gone. Because you could not stop." Silence. Then her father spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. "Vivian must marry the Duke. Vivian must marry the Duke." Lady Helena agreed. "It is our only option. He is wealthy beyond measure. His family needs an heir. If she can secure him, we are saved. And if she cannot, then we lose everything. The house, the lands, our place in society, everything." Rosalind pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. She had known things were bad. She had not known they were catastrophic. "What about Rosalind?" Her father's voice was hesitant. "Perhaps she could." "Rosalind." Her mother laughed, the sound bitter and sharp. "Edmund, be realistic. Rosalind is not marriageable. She has no beauty. She has no charm. She has no dowry worth mentioning. The best we can hope for is that she becomes a governess somewhere respectable after Vivian saves us. Rosalind stepped back from the door. Not marriageable, no beauty, no charm. The words settled into her chest like stones. She returned to her room and put on the faded lavender dress. It hung on her frame like defeat. In the mirror she looked exactly like what her mother had described. Invisible. Forgettable. Nothing. The carriage ride to the ball was torture. Vivian sat across from her, radiant in silver silk that caught every beam of light. Cordelia glowed in gold beside her. They discussed strategy like generals planning a war. "I will approach him during the second dance," Vivian said. "Not the first. That would seem too eager." "What if Lady Pemberton's daughter reaches him first?" Cordelia asked. "She will not." Vivian's smile was ice. "I have already arranged for Lord Ashford to engage her in conversation. She will be trapped for at least 20 minutes. Clever Lady Helena murmured approvingly. No one looked at Rosalind. No one spoke to her. She might as well have been part of the carriage cushions. The Whitmore estate blazed with light. Rosalind followed her family inside, walking 3 steps behind like a servant. The ballroom swallowed them whole. Rosalind watched her sisters work the room. Vivian glided from group to group, her laughter perfectly pitched, her smiles perfectly timed. Cordelia flanked her deflecting rivals with sharp comments disguised as compliments. They were magnificent. They were terrifying. Rosalind retreated to a corner near the refreshment table. A safe place, an invisible place. "You there?" A woman in emerald silk snapped her fingers. "Fetch me a glass of champagne." Rosalind blinked. "I beg your pardon, champagne." The woman looked at her with undisguised contempt. "Are you deaf as well as plain? Hurry up!" "I am not a servant," Rosalind said quietly. The woman looked her up and down, taking in the faded lavender dress, the simple hairstyle, the complete absence of jewelry. "Could have fooled me." The woman snorted and walked away. Rosalind's cheeks burned. She fled the ballroom, through the card room, past the supper room, through a door that led outside into cool night air and blessed darkness. The terrace was empty, silent, safe. She gripped the stone railing and forced herself to breathe. "I will not cry," she whispered. "I will not give them that satisfaction. I will not—" running from something. The voice came from the shadows, male, deep, amused. Rosalind spun around. A figure stood in the darkness of the terrace corner, barely visible against the night. "I did not know anyone was here," she said quickly. "I apologize. I will leave. Please do not." He stepped forward into the moonlight. Rosalind's breath stopped. She had heard the servants whispering about him all week. The Duke of Ravensdale, Damien Blackwood, the most eligible man in England. Cold, they said. Aloof. Impossible to impress. He did not look cold now. He looked curious, interested. His dark eyes studied her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You are hiding," he said. "Why I am not hiding. You fled the ballroom like it was on fire." His lips twitched. "I watched you. You watched me. I have been watching you all evening." Rosalind frowned. "That is not possible." "Why not?" "Because no one watches me. Ever. I am the invisible Ashworth sister, the one people mistake for a servant, the one who fades into wallpaper. You must have been watching someone else." "I was not." He moved closer, close enough that she could see the sharp lines of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead. "You stood in the corner for 43 minutes, he said. "You refused 2 glasses of champagne from actual servants. You watched your sisters hunt through the crowd like predators stalking prey. and you looked at the entire spectacle with an expression of complete exhaustion, as if you had seen this performance 1,000 times and found it deeply tedious. Rosalind stared at him. You counted the minutes I had nothing better to do. You are the Duke of Ravensdale. Every woman in that ballroom is fighting for your attention. You have 100 better things to do, and yet, he tilted his head, here I am, talking to the one woman who does not seem to want my attention at all. Rosalind did not know what to say. This was not how conversations with dukes were supposed to go. She had seen her sisters practice. There were rules. Flirtation, flattery, careful manipulation disguised as charm. She knew none of those rules. Your sister cornered me 20 minutes ago, he said. Which one? The golden one. Vivian. Rosalind's stomach dropped. And she told me I seemed lonely. She offered to keep me company. She laughed at a joke I did not make and touched my arm 4 times in 3 minutes. That sounds like Vivian. I found it exhausting. Rosalind blinked. Exhausting. Everything about that woman is calculated, he said. Every smile, every word, every carefully positioned eyelash. She is beautiful, certainly, but she is also hollow, a performance with nothing behind it. She is trying to save our family, Rosalind said quietly. She has a great deal riding on tonight. I know. He leaned against the railing beside her. I also know your father has lost nearly everything at the gaming tables. I know your estate is mortgaged beyond recovery. I know you have perhaps 3 months before the creditors descend. Rosalind went cold. How do you know that I make it my business to know things? His eyes held hers. I also know that you are nothing like the rest of your family. You do not know me at all. I know you saved for 18 months to buy a dress. I know your sister destroyed it this afternoon. I know you came to this ball in a gown that is 3 years out of fashion because it was the only thing left in your wardrobe. Rosalind's heart hammered. How could you possibly know about the dress because your sister Cordelia told Lady Pemberton? He smiled grimly. She thought it was amusing. A story to share. She did not realize I was standing close enough to hear. She told people. She told everyone who would listen. Rosalind closed her eyes. Of course she did. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then the Duke said something that changed everything. Dance with me. Rosalind's eyes flew open. What? The waltz is starting. Dance with me? No. No. He raised an eyebrow. Most women would not refuse a duke. I am not most women, and I cannot dance with you. Why not? Because my sister wants you. Because my family needs you. Because if I walk into that ballroom on your arm, I will destroy everything Vivian has worked for tonight. I do not want your sister. That does not matter. What matters, he interrupted, is that for 20 years your family has treated you like furniture. They have ignored you, belittled you, destroyed your possessions, and convinced you that you deserve it. They have made you believe you are invisible. He stepped closer. You are not invisible, Rosalind. You are the only real person I have met in 3 years of London seasons. And I am asking you to dance. Rosalind's hands trembled. You do not understand what will happen. Tell me. My mother will interrogate me for hours. My sisters will make my life unbearable. Everyone in that ballroom will stare and whisper. By tomorrow morning, I will be the subject of every piece of gossip in London. Good. Good, I want them to see you. His voice dropped low. I want them to see what they have overlooked for 20 years. I want your sisters to watch you dance with the man they have been hunting all season. I want your mother to realize that the daughter she dismissed as unmarriageable is the only one I have chosen to speak to all night. Why? Rosalind whispered. Why would you want any of that? Because you looked at the stars instead of the ballroom. Because you speak to me like a human being instead of a title. Because when everyone else performs, you simply exist. And that is more valuable to me than every fortune in England. Rosalind stared at him. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse to retreat, to remain safely invisible. But she was so tired of being invisible. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid. He led her through the terrace doors back into the blazing light of the ballroom. The crowd parted before them. Whispers spread like fire. Heads turned. Fans snapped open. Every eye in the room fixed on the impossible sight. The Duke of Ravensdale, with the invisible Ashworth sister. Vivian's face went white. Cordelia dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the floor. Lady Helena gripped her husband's arm so hard he winced. Damien led Rosalind to the centre of the dance floor. The orchestra struck the first notes of the waltz. He placed his hand on her waist and pulled her closer than was proper. "They are all staring," Rosalind whispered. "Yes. I cannot breathe. You do not need to breathe. You only need to follow me." They danced. Rosalind had never danced like this, never felt the music move through her like a current, never felt so completely present in her own body. His hand pressed warm against her back. His eyes never left her face. Around them the whispers grew louder. She could not hear the words, but she could feel them. Shock, confusion, jealousy. "Your sisters are furious," Damien murmured. "I know. Your mother looks like she might faint. I know." "How does it feel?" Rosalind looked up at him. For a moment she forgot about the staring crowd, forgot about her sisters, forgot about everything except the man holding her. "It feels," she said slowly, "like waking up after a very long sleep." He smiled. A real smile. Not practiced, not calculated, just real. "Good," he said. "Stay awake." The waltz ended. The music faded. The Duke of Ravensdale, in full view of every gossip in London, raised Rosalind's hand to his lips and kissed it. "I will call on you tomorrow," he said quietly. "You cannot. Watch me." He released her hand and walked away, leaving her standing in the centre of the dance floor, the centre of every stare in the room. 30 seconds of silence. Then Vivian appeared at her elbow. Her sister's hand clamped around Rosalind's arm with bruising force. The smile on Vivian's face was fixed, frozen, utterly terrifying. "Come with me," Vivian said through her teeth. "Now." She dragged Rosalind through the crowd, through a side door into an empty corridor. The moment they were alone, Vivian slammed Rosalind against the wall. "What did you do?" Vivian hissed. "What did you say to him?" "Nothing. We just talked." "Talked?" Vivian's grip tightened. "The Duke of Ravensdale does not talk to nobodies. He does not dance with nobodies. And he certainly does not kiss the hand of plain, pathetic, invisible nobodies like you. He asked me to dance. I said yes. That is all." Vivian leaned close, her beautiful face twisted with rage. "Listen to me carefully," she whispered. "You are going to fix this. You are going to tell him you are sick. You are going to tell him you are confused. You are going to disappear so completely that he forgets you ever existed. Because if you do not, if you continue this ridiculous charade, I will make the rest of your life so miserable that you will wish Cordelia had used those scissors on you instead of your dress." Rosalind's blood ran cold. "Vivienne, I did not plan this. He approached me. He asked me to dance. I did not pursue him. I do not care." Vivian's eyes blazed. "He is mine. This family's survival depends on me marrying him, and you will not ruin that. Do you understand me? You will not take this from me." Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Vivian immediately released Rosalind and stepped back, her expression shifting to polished concern. Lady Pemberton rounded the corner, fan fluttering. "There you are, Miss Ashworth." She looked between the sisters with poorly concealed curiosity. "Everyone is talking about your waltz with the Duke. What a surprising evening." "Yes," Vivian said, her voice honey-sweet. "My sister is full of surprises. We were just discussing how overwhelmed she feels by the attention. I believe she may need to rest." Lady Pemberton's eyes gleamed. Poor dear. Perhaps the excitement was too much for her. "Exactly," Vivian agreed. She turned to Rosalind with a smile that promised violence. "We should find Mother. Get you home." Rosalind nodded, her arm still throbbing where Vivian had gripped it. As they walked back toward the ballroom, she glanced over her shoulder one last time. The Duke stood at the far end of the corridor watching. He had seen everything: the confrontation, the threat, the barely concealed violence. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes burned with something dark and dangerous, something that looked like a promise. The carriage ride home was silence wrapped in fury. Vivian sat across from Rosalind, her eyes never blinking, never looking away. Cordelia pressed against the window, pretending to watch the darkness pass, but her shoulders shook with barely contained rage. Lady Helena stared at Rosalind as if seeing her for the first time, her expression caught between calculation and confusion. No one spoke. The silence was worse than screaming. When they arrived at the Ashworth townhouse, Vivian swept inside without a word. Cordelia followed, shooting Rosalind a look of pure venom. Lady Helena paused at the door. "My study," she said. "Now." Rosalind followed her mother through the darkened house. Her father was nowhere to be seen, probably in his own study, drowning his failures in brandy. Some things never changed. Lady Helena closed the study door and turned to face her daughter. "Explain," she said. "There is nothing to explain. The Duke asked me to dance. I accepted. The Duke asked you to dance." Lady Helena repeated the words slowly, as if testing them for poison. "The Duke of Ravensdale, the most eligible man in England, asked you to dance?" "Yes. Why, I do not know." "You do not know?" Lady Helena laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. "Rosalind, men like the Duke of Ravensdale do not notice women like you. They do not ask wallflowers to dance. They do not kiss hands in front of 300 witnesses." Something happened. "What did you do?" "I did nothing." Rosalind's voice trembled with exhaustion. "I went to the terrace for air. He was there. We talked. He asked me to dance. That is the entire story." "What did you talk about the stars?" "My sisters. The tedium of ballrooms." Lady Helena stared at her. "The stars?" "Yes. You talked to the Duke of Ravensdale about stars." He seemed interested. For a long moment, Lady Helena said nothing. Then she sank into a chair, pressing her fingers to her temples. "Do you understand what you have done?" she asked quietly. "Do you have any idea the position you have put this family in? I danced with a man who asked me to dance. I do not see how that damages anyone. You humiliated your sister." Lady Helena's voice rose. "Vivian has spent weeks preparing for tonight, weeks cultivating connections, gathering intelligence, planning her approach. And in one evening you destroyed everything. I did not ask him to dance with me. That does not matter. What matters is that every gossip in London watched the Duke of Ravensdale choose the invisible Ashworth sister over the golden one. By tomorrow morning, Vivian will be a laughingstock. Her chances with the Duke will be ruined, and this family will lose its only hope of survival. Rosalind felt something crack inside her chest. So that is all that matters, she said softly. Vivian's chances, the family's survival. What about me? What about what I want? What you want? Lady Helena looked at her with genuine bewilderment. Rosalind, you are the plain daughter, the unmarriageable one. What you want has never been relevant to this family's future. The words landed like blows. Rosalind stood very still, absorbing the impact. Then perhaps she said quietly, "It is time that changed." She turned and walked out of the study, leaving her mother staring after her in shock. Rosalind did not sleep that night. She lay in her small bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the evening. The Duke's eyes finding hers across the ballroom, his hand warm on her waist, his voice saying words no one had ever said to her before. "You are not invisible." She wanted to believe him, desperately. But 21 years of being overlooked had taught her that hope was dangerous. Hope led to disappointment. Hope led to scissors slicing through rose-coloured silk. Morning came grey and cold. Rosalind dressed in her oldest gown and went downstairs expecting the worst. She found Vivian waiting in the breakfast room. Her sister sat alone at the table, a cup of tea cooling in front of her. She did not look up when Rosalind entered. "Sit down," Vivian said. Rosalind sat. For a long moment neither of them spoke. "I have been thinking," Vivian finally said, "about last night. About you. About the Duke." "Vivian, I did not plan for any of this to happen." "I know." Vivian's voice was calm. Terrifyingly calm. "That is what makes it so infuriating. If you had schemed, if you had plotted, I could at least respect the effort. But you did nothing. You simply existed in the right place at the right time, and somehow that was enough. I am sorry. No, you are not." Vivian finally looked at her. "But you will be. What does that mean?" "It means that whatever happened last night will not happen again." Vivian set down her teacup with a precise click. The Duke was clearly confused, overwhelmed by the crowd. Perhaps he had too much wine. But when he has time to reflect, he will realize his mistake. And when he does, I will be there to offer him a more suitable alternative. And if he does not realize his mistake, he will. Vivian smiled, and the expression made Rosalind's blood run cold. "I will make certain of it." The front door knocker sounded sharp and sudden. Both sisters froze. "Who calls at this hour?" Vivian muttered, rising from her chair. They heard the butler's footsteps, then voices in the foyer. A moment later, he appeared in the doorway. "A delivery," he announced. "For Miss Rosalind Ashworth." Vivian's face went pale. "What kind of delivery flowers, miss?" The butler stepped aside, and a footman entered carrying a crystal vase. Inside was a single white rose, its petals perfect and unblemished. Rosalind's heart stopped. "Give me that." Vivian snatched the card tucked among the petals before Rosalind could move. She tore it open, read it, and the colour drained completely from her face. "What does it say?" Rosalind asked. Vivian did not answer. Instead, she read the words aloud, her voice shaking with rage. "For the lady who prefers stars to diamonds. I will call at 3 o'clock. D." The card burst into flames. Vivian held it over the candle on the breakfast table, watching it burn to ash. "He is not coming here," Vivian said. "He is not seeing you again. This ends now." "Vivian, you cannot just—" "I can and I will." Vivian grabbed Rosalind's arm, her fingers digging into flesh. "You are going to tell the servants you are unwell. You are going to stay in your room. and when the Duke arrives, I will inform him that you have taken ill and cannot receive visitors." "No." The word escaped before Rosalind could stop it. Vivian's grip tightened. "What did you say I said no?" Rosalind pulled her arm free, her heart pounding. "I am not going to hide in my room. I am not going to pretend to be sick, and I am not going to let you intercept my visitors." "Your visitors?" Vivian laughed, the sound ugly and sharp. "He is not your visitor, Rosalind. He is a confused nobleman who made a mistake, and I am protecting you from the humiliation of watching him realize that mistake. Or you are protecting yourself from watching him choose me." The slap came without warning. Rosalind's head snapped to the side. Her cheek exploded with pain. "Listen to me very carefully," Vivian whispered, her face inches from Rosalind's. "I have spent my entire life being the perfect daughter, the beautiful one, the accomplished one, the one who would save this family. I will not lose everything I have worked for to my plain, pathetic, invisible sister. Do you understand me?" Rosalind pressed her hand to her burning cheek. "I understand," she said quietly, "that you are afraid." Vivian's eyes widened. "You are afraid," Rosalind continued, "because for the first time in your life, being beautiful is not enough. You are afraid because a man looked past your golden hair and perfect face and saw nothing worth wanting. You are afraid because if the Duke chooses me, it means everything you believed about yourself was a lie." Vivian struck her again. Rosalind tasted blood. "You will regret this," Vivian hissed. "I will make certain you regret every word." She stormed out of the room, leaving Rosalind alone with a single white rose and a face that would bruise by evening. The clock struck 3. Rosalind sat in the drawing room, her mother on one side, Cordelia on the other. Vivian had positioned herself by the window, watching the street with predatory focus. "He will not come," Vivian said. "It has been 5 minutes past the hour." "He has reconsidered." The door knocker sounded. Vivian's face twisted. "The Duke of Ravensdale," the butler announced. Damien Blackwood walked into the drawing room, and everything changed. He was dressed simply today. Dark coat, white cravat. No jewelry except a signet ring. But his presence filled the room like a storm front, electric and unavoidable. His eyes found Rosalind immediately. Then they found her cheek. The bruise had already begun to form. She had tried to cover it with powder, but nothing could hide the swelling, the angry red mark that spread across her cheekbone. Damien's expression did not change, but something in his eyes went very, very cold. "Your Grace." Lady Helena rose, her voice bright with false warmth. "What an honor! We were not expecting you. I sent word this morning." His voice was flat. "A single white rose. A note indicating my intention to call at 3. "A rose?" Lady Helena glanced at Vivian. "I am afraid we did not receive any flowers." "How strange," Damien said. "The florist assured me it was delivered. Perhaps there was a confusion." Vivian stepped forward, her smile perfect and practiced. "The servants have been rather scattered lately. I am certain the flowers will turn up. In the meantime, may I offer you some tea? I did not come for tea." Damien's eyes had not left Rosalind's face. "I came to speak with Miss Rosalind." Vivian's smile flickered. "Surely you mean I mean Rosalind." He walked past Vivian as if she did not exist and stopped in front of Rosalind's chair. "You received my note." It was not a question. "Yes," Rosalind said softly. "My sister read it to me." "Your sister?" He glanced at Vivian, and something dangerous flickered across his face. "I see. Your Grace," Lady Helena interjected. "Perhaps we might discuss. I wish to walk in the garden with Miss Rosalind." "Alone." "Alone?" Lady Helena's voice rose. That would be highly improper. I am a duke. His tone brooked no argument. I will decide what is proper. He extended his hand to Rosalind. She hesitated, feeling the weight of her family's stares. Her mother's panic, Cordelia's fury, Vivian's silent, seething rage. Then she took his hand and let him lead her from the room. The garden was small and overgrown, neglected like everything else in the Ashworth household. But the moment they stepped outside, Damien stopped walking and turned to face her. Who hit you? Rosalind's hand flew to her cheek. It is nothing. Who hit you? His voice was quiet, but beneath the calm was something molten, something barely contained. My sister. Rosalind looked away. After she burned your note. Vivian. Yes. He was silent for a long moment. I am going to ask you something, he said finally, and I need you to answer honestly. All right. Do you want to leave this house? Rosalind's breath caught. What your family treats you like an inconvenience at best and a target at worst. Your sister strikes you, your mother dismisses you, your father is too drunk to notice you exist. He stepped closer. Do you want to leave? I have nowhere to go. That is not what I asked. Do you want to leave? Rosalind felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. I have wanted to leave since I was 15 years old, she whispered. But wanting does not change anything. I have no money, no connections, no prospects. You have me. She stared at him. I do not understand. I know. He reached out and gently, carefully touched her bruised cheek. But you will. I am going to get you out of this house, Rosalind. I am going to show your family exactly how wrong they have been about you, and I am going to make certain that no one ever strikes you again. Why? Her voice cracked. Why do you care what happens to me? Because you are the first real thing I have encountered in years. Because when you speak, I actually want to listen. Because the thought of you spending one more day in this house with these people makes me want to burn it to the ground. She could not breathe. This is madness, she whispered. We have known each other for one day. I have known your sisters for 3 seasons. His thumb traced the edge of her bruise with impossible gentleness. I have danced with 50 women who smile like Vivian and speak like Cordelia. Empty, calculated, desperate. You are different. You are real. And I am tired of empty. Voices drifted from the house. Vivienne's sharp tones. Lady Helena's frantic responses. I should go back, Rosalind said. No. His hand dropped from her face, but his eyes held hers. You should come with me. Come with you where? Anywhere. His voice was rough. My estate in the country, my townhouse in London, the continent. Anywhere that is not here. I cannot just leave. Why not? Because my family. Your family uses you as a servant and a scapegoat. They do not deserve your loyalty. Because society already believes you are invisible. What more can they do? Because I am afraid. The words escaped before she could stop them. Damien went very still. I am afraid. Rosalind repeated, her voice breaking. I am afraid that this is not real. That tomorrow you will wake up and realize you made a mistake. That I am exactly what my family says I am. Plain, forgettable, nothing. He stepped close, so close she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Look at me, he said. She lifted her eyes to his. I have never forgotten a single word you have spoken to me, he said quietly. I remember that you quoted the Pleiades by their Greek names. I remember that you compared ballrooms to gilded cages. I remember exactly how your hand felt in mine during the waltz, And I remember lying awake last night, counting the hours until I could see you again." "That is impossible," she whispered. "We barely know each other." "I know enough. I know you are brave even when you are terrified. I know you are kind even to people who have never shown you kindness. I know you have survived 21 years in a house that should have destroyed you, and you are still standing." He cupped her face in his hands. "And I know that if you give me the chance, I will spend the rest of my life proving that you were never invisible. You were just surrounded by people too blind to see you." The garden door burst open. "Step away from my daughter," Lady Helena commanded, her voice shrill with panic. Vivienne hovered behind her, her face a mask of barely controlled fury. Damien released Rosalind slowly and turned to face them. "Your daughter and I were having a private conversation. Private conversations between unmarried young people are highly irregular," Lady Helena said. "Whatever your intentions." "Your Grace, this is not the proper way to pursue them." "Then allow me to clarify my intentions." Damien's voice cut through the garden like a blade. "I intend to court your daughter. I intend to call on her daily. I intend to take her driving in the park, accompany her to the opera, and escort her to every ball of the season. And if any member of this household interferes with those intentions, I will ensure that the full weight of my displeasure falls upon them." Lady Helena's face went pale. "Your Grace, surely you mean Vivienne?" "My eldest daughter is far more, I mean Rosalind." His eyes flickered to Vivienne, cold and dismissive. "Your eldest daughter does not interest me." Vivienne made a sound like a wounded animal. "This is absurd," she spat. "Rosalind is nothing. She has nothing to offer you. I am the beautiful one. I am the accomplished one. I am the one you should want. And yet—" Damien turned back to Rosalind, and his expression softened. "I find myself wanting the one who speaks the truth instead of performing it." He took Rosalind's hand and lifted it to his lips. "Until tomorrow," he said. "When I call, I expect you to be available, not hiding in your room, not pretending to be ill. Available." He released her hand and walked past Lady Helena and Vivienne without another glance. The front door closed behind him. Silence. Then Vivienne screamed. It was a sound of pure rage ripped from somewhere deep inside her. She grabbed a garden pot and hurled it against the wall, shattering ceramic and dirt across the path. "This is not happening!" she shrieked. "This cannot be happening!" "He wants Rosalind plain, pathetic, invisible Rosalind Vivienne." "Calm yourself," Lady Helena commanded, but her voice shook. "Calm myself," Vivienne whirled on her mother. "Our family is on the verge of ruin. The only man who can save us just declared his intention to court my nothing sister, and you want me to calm myself?" She turned to Rosalind, and the hatred in her eyes was absolute. "This is not over," Vivienne whispered. "Do you understand me? Whatever game you are playing, whatever trick you have used to bewitch him, I will uncover it. And when I do, I will destroy you." She stalked into the house, slamming the door behind her. Lady Helena remained in the garden, staring at Rosalind as if seeing her for the first time. "How did you do it?" she asked quietly. "I did not do anything," Rosalind said. "He saw me. That is all. That is not possible. And yet, here we are." Lady Helena shook her head slowly. "You have made a powerful enemy in your sister Rosalind." "Vivienne does not forgive. She does not forget. Whatever happens with the Duke, you will pay for this humiliation." "I know," Rosalind said softly. "And you are not afraid?" Rosalind thought about the Duke's hands on her face, his voice promising to get her out of this house, his eyes seeing her when no one else ever had. "I have been afraid my entire life," she said. "Perhaps it is time to be something else." She walked past her mother into the house and up the stairs to her small room. Behind her closed door, She finally allowed herself to breathe. He was coming back, tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. For the first time in 21 years, someone had chosen her. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know if she could trust this sudden, impossible reversal of fortune. She did not know if the Duke's interest would last beyond the novelty of the moment. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was done being invisible. Whatever came next, whatever her sisters planned, whatever her mother schemed, she would face it, standing up. She touched her bruised cheek and smiled. Let them try to destroy her. She had already survived worse. The Duke called the next day, and the day after, and every day for 2 weeks. Each visit was a small war. Rosalind would descend the stairs to find Vivienne already positioned in the drawing room, dressed in her finest smile, sharp as a blade. Lady Helena would hover nearby, desperately trying to redirect the Duke's attention. Cordelia would make cutting remarks disguised as sisterly concern. And Damien would ignore them all. He spoke only to Rosalind, looked only at Rosalind, asked only Rosalind to walk with him, ride with him, sit beside him. It was driving her family mad. On the 14th day, everything changed. "You look tired," Damien said as they walked through Hyde Park. His carriage followed at a discreet distance, his driver pretending not to watch. "I have not been sleeping well," Rosalind admitted. "Your sisters?" "My sisters. My mother. The servants who suddenly forget to bring my breakfast. The maids who lose my correspondence." She laughed, but there was no humour in it. "My entire household has declared war on me." Damien's jaw tightened. "Tell me. It is nothing I cannot handle. Tell me anyway." Rosalind hesitated. She had not wanted to burden him with the petty cruelties. They seemed so small compared to the attention he was showing her. But the exhaustion was wearing her down. Yesterday she said quietly, "I found salt in my tea. The day before, someone cut the buttons off all my day dresses. Last week my pillow disappeared, and I had to sleep without one. Small things, childish things, but constant. Who Cordelia mostly? She thinks she is being clever. Vivienne prefers a more direct approach." What kind of direct approach? Rosalind unconsciously touched her cheek. The bruise had faded, but the memory had not. "She has not struck me again," she said. "Not physically. But she has made certain that everyone in London knows I am delusional." "Delusional?" "She has been telling people that I have fits, that I suffer from hysteria, that I invented your interest in me as a fantasy to cope with my spinsterhood." Rosalind's voice cracked slightly. "Lady Pemberton asked me yesterday if I was receiving treatment." Damien stopped walking. She said, "What?" "She asked if my family had considered sending me to the country for my health. She said Vivienne had confided that you felt sorry for me and were simply being kind, and that I had misinterpreted your charity as courtship." His expression went very still, very cold. "And what did you say?" "I said nothing." Rosalind looked away. "What could I say? My word against Vivienne's. She is beautiful and charming and believed. I am the plain sister who hides in corners. Who would believe me? I would. You are one person." She turned back to him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "The entire ton believes her. I hear the whispers when I enter a room. I see the pitying looks. They think I am mad, Damien. They think I have invented you. Then let us prove them wrong. How come to the Hartwell ball with me tonight?" He took her hands in his. "Not as a woman I am visiting, as the woman on my arm. Let me make my intentions so public that no one can question them." Rosalind's heart hammered. You want to escort me. Formally, I want to do far more than that. His grip tightened. But escorting you is a start. My family will never allow it. I am not asking your family. I am asking you. She stared at him, her mind racing. The Hartwell Ball was the event of the season. Every important family would be there, every gossip, every pair of watching eyes. If she attended on the Duke's arm, it would be a declaration, a statement that could not be misinterpreted or explained away. Yes, she whispered. His smile was fierce. I will send a carriage at 8. He released her hands, but something in his eyes made her breath catch. Rosalind, he said quietly, after tonight, everything changes. Are you prepared for that? She thought about Vivian's rage, Cordelia's cruelty, her mother's disappointment. Then she thought about the way Damien looked at her, like she mattered, like she was real. I am prepared, she said. She was not prepared. She returned home to find her bedroom ransacked. Every dress she owned lay scattered across the floor, torn and stained. Her jewelry box had been emptied, its contents crushed beneath someone's heel. Her brush, her mirror, her few precious books all destroyed. And on her bed, laid out with deliberate care, was the lavender dress from the ball. The old one, the faded one, the only piece of clothing left untouched. A note sat on top of it. Rosalind picked it up with trembling hands. You can dress up a mouse, but it will never be a swan. Wear this tonight. It is all you deserve. The handwriting was Cordelia's, but standing in the doorway, watching with cold satisfaction, was Vivian. I tried to warn you, Vivian said softly. I told you this was not over. Rosalind stared at the destruction around her. Months of careful saving, years of accumulated small treasures. Gone. Why? Her voice was barely a whisper. Why do you hate me so much? I do not hate you. Vivian stepped into the room, picking her way through the debris with delicate precision. I simply refuse to let you destroy this family. I am not destroying anything. You are stealing the only man who can save us. Vivian's mask slipped, revealing something raw and desperate beneath. Do you think I enjoy this? Do you think I want to spend my life performing for wealthy idiots who see me as nothing more than a beautiful face? I have no choice, Rosalind. Marriage is my only option. And you, with your stars and your quiet observations and your complete lack of ambition, you are taking away my only chance. He does not want you, Vivian. The slap echoed through the room. Rosalind's head snapped to the side. The same cheek, the same burst of pain. He will want me, Vivian hissed. When you are not there to distract him, when you are safely hidden away in the country recovering from your hysteria, he will realize that I am the logical choice, the beautiful choice, the only choice. He is taking me to the Hartwell Ball tonight. Vivian laughed. In what? She gestured at the destroyed clothing. Your nightgown. The lavender monstrosity. Go ahead, Rosalind. Attend the most important ball of the season in a 3-year-old dress that makes you look like a governess. I am certain the Duke will be thrilled. Rosalind looked at the ruined dresses, at the lavender gown on her bed, at her sister's triumphant smile. Something inside her shifted. You are right, she said quietly. Vivian blinked. I beg your pardon. You are right. I have nothing to wear. She picked up the lavender dress and held it against herself. This will have to do. Vivian's triumph wavered. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. Rosalind met her sister's eyes. You have taken everything from me, Vivian. My childhood, my confidence, my possessions. But you cannot take him, because he does not see dresses. He sees me. That is ridiculous. Is it? Rosalind smiled, and for the first time there was steel in it. He watched me at the Whitmore ball when I wore this same faded gown. He danced with me when I looked like a servant. He kissed my hand when every other woman in the room outshone me, and he keeps coming back, every single day, for me. Vivian's face contorted. He is confused. He will realize nothing, because there is nothing to realize. I am not performing for him, Vivian. I am not calculating or scheming or manipulating. I am simply being myself. And apparently that is enough. She walked past her sister, the lavender dress clutched in her arms. Rosalind. Vivian's voice stopped her at the door. If you attend that ball tonight, I will destroy you. I will spread every rumor, tell every lie, use every connection I have to ensure that no one in society ever speaks to you again. Rosalind turned back. You have been trying to destroy me for 21 years, she said. I am still here. She closed the door behind her and began to prepare for the ball. The Duke's carriage arrived at precisely 8 o'clock. Rosalind descended the stairs in the faded lavender dress. No jewelry, no elaborate hairstyle, just herself, plain and simple and terrified. Her mother stood in the foyer, her face a mask of horror. You cannot go out like that, Lady Helena said. You will humiliate us. I believe I will humiliate myself, Rosalind replied. And I have made peace with that. She opened the front door before her mother could respond. Damien stood on the steps dressed in immaculate evening clothes. His eyes swept over her, taking in the old dress, the lack of adornment, the defiant lift of her chin. He smiled. You look beautiful, he said. Rosalind felt tears prick at her eyes. I look like a governess. You look like a woman who has stopped caring what anyone thinks. He offered his arm. That is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. She took his arm and let him lead her to the carriage. Behind her she heard Vivian's scream of rage from the drawing-room window. She did not look back. The Hartwell ball was everything Rosalind had feared. Hundreds of candles, hundreds of guests, hundreds of eyes turning to stare as the Duke of Ravensdale entered with the invisible Ashworth sister on his arm, in a faded lavender dress. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Is that Rosalind Ashworth? What is she wearing? Did the Duke lose a wager? Is this some kind of joke? Rosalind felt her courage faltering. The weight of their stares pressed down on her like a physical force. Damien's hand covered hers. Look at me, he said quietly. Not at them, just at me. She lifted her eyes to his. Do you trust me? He asked. She did not hesitate. Yes. Then follow my lead. He walked her to the center of the ballroom. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. The orchestra faltered, then recovered. And then the Duke of Ravensdale did something unprecedented. He bowed to her. Not a polite social bow. A deep, formal bow of genuine respect. The kind of bow a man gives to a woman he intends to honor above all others. The ballroom went silent. Miss Ashworth, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room, would you do me the honor of this dance? Rosalind's heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. Yes, she whispered. He took her hand and led her to the floor. The orchestra began to play. They danced. And as they moved together, Rosalind became aware of something shifting in the room. The whispers changed. The stares transformed from mockery to confusion to something else entirely. Curiosity. He is looking at her like she is made of gold, someone murmured. Did you see that bow? This is not a joke. He is serious. Rosalind focused on Damien's face, on his steady gaze, on the warmth of his hand at her waist. "They are talking," she whispered. "Let them. They are staring. Good. They think I am insane. Then let me prove them wrong." The music swelled. Damien pulled her closer, closer than propriety allowed, close enough that she could feel his breath on her cheek. "Rosalind," he murmured, "I am going to do something that will shock everyone in this room, including you. What, I am going to kiss you." Her eyes widened. "You cannot. Not here. Not in front of everyone. I can, and I will. Unless you tell me to stop." She should tell him to stop. Every rule of society, every instinct of self-preservation screamed at her to step back, to maintain propriety, to protect what little reputation she had left. But she was so tired of rules, so tired of propriety, so tired of protecting a reputation that had never protected her. "Do not stop," she whispered. He smiled. And then, in full view of 300 witnesses, the Duke of Ravensdale kissed Rosalind Ashworth. It was not a chaste peck on the cheek, not a polite brush of lips. It was a real kiss, deep and passionate and absolutely unmistakable. The ballroom erupted, gasps, shrieks, the clatter of dropped champagne glasses. Someone actually fainted. Damien pulled back, his eyes searching hers. "Are you all right?" he asked. Rosalind touched her lips, still feeling the warmth of him. "I think," she said slowly, "that you just ruined me. I think I just claimed you. There is a difference. One is destruction." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones. "The other is a beginning." Lady Hartwell rushed toward them, her face red with outrage. "Your Grace, this is highly irregular. This behavior is completely Lady Hartwell." Damien did not release Rosalind. He did not even look at their hostess. "I suggest you prepare yourself for a great many irregular occurrences, starting with the announcement I intend to make at the end of this ball." "Announcement?" "Yes." He finally turned to face her. "I am going to announce my engagement." Lady Hartwell's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Your engagement?" she stammered. "To whom?" Damien looked at Rosalind, and his smile was tender and fierce and absolutely certain. "To the woman I just kissed," he said, "unless she has any objections." Rosalind stared at him. He could not be serious. This was madness. They had known each other for 2 weeks. He was a duke, she was nobody. But he was looking at her with eyes that saw everything she was, everything she had been, everything she could become. And he wanted all of it. "I have no objections," she heard herself say. The ballroom exploded into chaos. People rushed toward them, surrounding them, firing questions. Lady Hartwell fluttered helplessly. Matrons clutched their pearls. Young ladies burst into tears. And across the room, pushing through the crowd with murder in her eyes, came Vivian. She had arrived late, dressed in stunning silver, clearly prepared to outshine everyone at the ball. She had not expected to walk into her sister's engagement announcement. "You scheming little witch, Vivian," hissed, shoving through the final ring of spectators. "What have you done?" Damien stepped in front of Rosalind, blocking her from Vivian's advance. "She has done nothing," he said, his voice cold enough to freeze champagne. "She has simply been herself, something you would know nothing about. You cannot marry her." Vivian's composure cracked completely. "She is nobody. She is nothing. I am the one you should want. I am beautiful. I am accomplished. You are exhausting." Damien cut her off without raising his voice. "You are calculating. You are shallow. And you have spent 21 years tormenting the finest woman I have ever met because you could not stand the competition." Competition! Vivian laughed wildly. She is not competition. She is furniture. She is wallpaper. She is going to be my wife. His words silenced the entire room. And you will address her with respect, or you will not address her at all. Vivian's face went white. This is not over, she whispered. For me it is. Damien turned back to Rosalind. She is not worth your attention. None of them are. He took her hand and led her away from the chaos, away from the staring eyes, away from everything that had made her feel invisible for 21 years. Outside on the terrace where they could finally breathe, he stopped and looked at her. I apologize, he said. For what? For proposing to you in front of 300 strangers? He smiled ruefully. I had planned something more private, more romantic. But when I saw you standing there in that dress, refusing to be ashamed, I could not wait. You truly want to marry me. I have never wanted anything more. We have known each other for 2 weeks. I knew within 2 minutes. His hands found hers. Time is irrelevant, Rosalind. Some people spend years together and never truly see each other. I saw you the moment you spoke about the stars. Everything since then has only confirmed what I already knew. What did you know? That you are the woman I have been waiting for. That you are brave and kind and honest. That you deserve to be seen by someone who will never look away. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I do not know how to be a duchess, she whispered. I do not care. I do not know how to navigate society. We will navigate it together. I do not know how to be anything other than invisible. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed the tears from her cheeks. Then, let me spend the rest of my life showing you what visibility feels like, he said. Let me show you what it means to be cherished. Let me love you the way you have always deserved to be loved. Yes, the word came out as a sob. Yes, Damien. Yes. He pulled her into his arms and she buried her face against his chest. Behind them, through the terrace doors, she could hear the chaos of the ballroom, the speculation, the gossip, the shock. She could hear Vivian's voice raised in fury. She could imagine her mother's face. None of it mattered. She had spent 21 years being invisible, 21 years being told she was nothing, would achieve nothing, deserved nothing, and now she was going to be a duchess. Not because she had changed, not because she had become beautiful or charming or accomplished, because one man had seen her exactly as she was, and found her worth choosing. Damien, she murmured against his chest. Yes. What happens now? He pulled back to look at her, his eyes dark with promise. Now, he said, we tell your father. Rosalind's blood went cold. Her father. She had almost forgotten. In the whirlwind of the ball, the kiss, the proposal, she had almost forgotten the man who had gambled away their future, the man who needed this marriage to survive. He will not refuse you, she said slowly. He cannot afford to. No. Damien's expression hardened. He cannot. But that is not why I am asking him. Then why? Because I want him to understand something. I want him to look me in the eye while I explain exactly how badly he has failed you. I want him to know that I am taking you away from a family that never deserved you. And I want him to spend the rest of his life knowing that his invisible daughter became the most envied woman in England. Rosalind stared at him. You want to punish him? I want justice. His jaw tightened. Every bruise your sister gave you, every meal you skipped to save for a dress, every time they made you feel like nothing. Someone should answer for that. Vengeance will not heal those wounds. No, but watching your family realize their mistake might help close them. She considered his words, the cold fury beneath his calm, the protective rage that burned in his eyes. He was not just marrying her, he was rescuing her. And while part of her bristled at the idea of needing rescue, a larger part, the part that had survived 21 years of cruelty, felt something she had never felt before. Safe. "Tomorrow," she said. "We will go to my father tomorrow." "Tonight," he corrected. "While they are still reeling." "Tonight I have waited 2 weeks to claim you publicly." He took her hand. "I will not wait another 12 hours to make it official." He led her back through the ballroom, past the staring crowds, past the gossiping matrons, past Vivian's rigid figure standing alone by the wall. Their carriage was already waiting. As they drove toward the Ashworth townhouse, Rosalind watched the darkness pass by the window. She thought about her sister's hatred, her mother's disappointment, her father's failure. She thought about the scissors slicing through rose-colored silk, the salt in her tea, the destroyed clothing scattered across her bedroom floor. She thought about 21 years of being invisible. And she smiled, because in less than an hour she would walk into her father's study on the arm of a duke, and nothing would ever be the same. The carriage stopped in front of the Ashworth townhouse at 11:30. Every window blazed with light. The family had beaten them home. "They are waiting for us," Rosalind said quietly. "Good." Damien stepped out and offered her his hand. Let them wait no longer. They walked up the steps together. The door flew open before they could knock. Lady Helena stood in the doorway, her face contorted with barely contained hysteria. "How dare you?" she hissed at Rosalind. "How dare you humiliate this family?" "I believe I elevated it," Rosalind replied, and walked past her mother into the house. Damien followed, and Lady Helena shrank back as if burned by his presence. "Where is Lord Ashworth?" Damien asked. Lady Helena's mouth opened and closed. "In his study." "But you cannot simply—" "I can. And I will." He strode down the hall without waiting for permission. Rosalind followed, her heart pounding. Behind them she heard her mother's frantic footsteps. They reached the study door. Damien did not knock. He pushed it open and walked inside. Lord Edmund Ashworth sat behind his desk, a glass of brandy in his trembling hand. He looked up at the intrusion, his eyes bloodshot and unfocused. "Your Grace." He scrambled to his feet, nearly knocking over the glass. "This is an unexpected honor. Sit down." The command cut through the room like a whip. Lord Ashworth sank back into his chair, confusion and fear warring on his face. Damien closed the door. Lady Helena pounded on it from outside, but he did not open it. "Lord Ashworth," he said, his voice calm and cold. "Do you know why I am here? I can only assume it concerns the events at the Hartwell ball." Lord Ashworth's eyes flickered to Rosalind, then away. "There have been some unfortunate rumours." "Rumours?" Damien laughed, and the sound was not pleasant. "I kissed your daughter in front of 300 witnesses and announced my intention to marry her. Those are not rumours. Those are facts." Lord Ashworth went pale. "Marry Rosalind?" "Yes, Rosalind. But she is the plain one." Lord Ashworth looked genuinely bewildered. "Vivian is the beautiful daughter. If you wish to marry into our family, surely I do not wish to marry into your family." Damien cut him off. "I wish to marry Rosalind. The family is merely an unfortunate attachment." Lord Ashworth blinked. "I do not understand." "No." Damien leaned forward, placing both hands on the desk. "You do not. So let me explain." He reached into his coat and pulled out a sheaf of papers. They landed on the desk with a heavy thud. "Do you know what these are?" Damien asked. Lord Ashworth's hand shook as he reached for them. He unfolded the first page, and the colour drained from his face. "These are my debts." "Yes." "How did you— You could not possibly— I have been investigating your finances for 3 weeks." Damien's voice was ice. "Every gambling debt, every mortgage, every promissory note you signed in the desperate hope that your luck would change. I own them all now, Lord Ashworth, every single one." The study went silent. "You bought my debts," Lord Ashworth whispered. "I purchased them from your creditors this morning. Every man you owed money to was happy to sell at a discount. They had given up hope of ever seeing a penny." "Then I owe you everything. You owe me nothing." Damien straightened. "Because I am going to forgive every debt, every mortgage, every pound you have lost at the gaming tables." Lord Ashworth stared at him. "Why not for you?" Damien turned to look at Rosalind, and his expression softened. For her. Rosalind felt tears prick at her eyes. "Damien, you cannot. It is already done." He turned back to Lord Ashworth. "But before I finalize the paperwork, you are going to listen to me very carefully. And you are going to understand exactly what you have done. What I have done to her." Damien's voice dropped and something dangerous entered his tone. "To the daughter you forgot existed. I did not forget you did. You gambled away her dowry before she was old enough to understand what a dowry was. You let your wife treat her as a servant. You let your other daughters torment her, strike her, destroy her possessions. And you did nothing." Lord Ashworth's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Damien reached across the desk and grabbed the brandy glass from his hand. "Do you know what Rosalind did while you were drowning yourself in this?" He held up the glass. "She saved every penny she could find for 18 months. She copied manuscripts until her fingers bled. She sold her mother's cast-off ribbons, all so she could buy one dress, one beautiful thing in a life full of ugliness. I did not know. You did not care enough to know." Damien set the glass down with a sharp crack. "And do you know what happened to that dress?" Lord Ashworth shook his head. "Cordelia destroyed it, cut it to pieces with scissors while Rosalind watched. And then Vivian struck her across the face for the crime of catching my attention, struck her twice, on the same cheek." Damien's jaw tightened. "Look at your daughter, Lord Ashworth. Look at her and tell me you did not know." Lord Ashworth finally turned to look at Rosalind. Really look at her, at the faded dress, the simple hairstyle, the faint remnants of bruising still visible on her cheekbone. Something crumbled in his expression. "Rosalind," he whispered, "I did not. I never meant. You never meant to hurt me." Rosalind's voice was steady, but her hands shook. "You simply never thought about me at all. I was not important enough to think about." "That is not true." "It is true." She stepped forward. "Do you know what Mother said to me the morning of the Whitmore ball? She said I was not marriageable. No beauty, no charm, no prospects. She said the best I could hope for was to become a governess after Vivian saved the family." Lord Ashworth flinched. "Do you know what Vivian said?" Rosalind continued. "She told me to hide in my room when the Duke called. She burned his note. She spread rumours that I was mentally unstable. And when I refused to disappear, she slapped me so hard I could not sleep on that side of my face for a week." "Rosalind, I am so sorry. I do not want your apology." Lord Ashworth blinked. "Then what do you want?" "I want you to understand why I am leaving." Rosalind's voice broke, but she pressed on. I want you to know that when I walk out of this house, I will never come back. I want you to spend the rest of your life knowing that your invisible daughter was worth more than everything you gambled away. And I want you to tell Vivian and Cordelia that they will never hurt me again." Silence. Then Lord Ashworth did something Rosalind had never seen before. He began to cry. Not elegant, dignified tears, real, ugly sobs that shook his entire body. He buried his face in his hands and wept like a man who had just realized the full extent of his failures. "I failed you," he gasped. "I failed all of you. The gambling, it started as a way to increase our fortune. Just a little more. Just one more win. And then I could not stop. I could not." "I know," Rosalind said quietly. "Your mother, she was not always like this. Before the debts, before the fear, she was different. I do not remember a different mother." Lord Ashworth looked up, his face ravaged by tears. "She is terrified, Rosalind. We all are. The creditors, the shame, the ruin. She put everything on Vivian because Vivian was the only chance we had. And when you became a chance instead, she could not accept it. She could not understand it." He shook his head. "None of us could. You were always so quiet, so invisible. We did not see." "I know," Rosalind said again. "You never saw me. None of you did. But he did." Lord Ashworth's gaze shifted to Damien. "He saw you?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I was looking." Damien stepped forward and took Rosalind's hand. "Because while everyone else was blinded by Vivian's performance, I was watching the woman in the corner who did not perform, who did not pretend, who was simply radiantly herself." Lord Ashworth stared at their joined hands. "You love her," he said. It was not a question. "More than I have ever loved anything. And you truly want to marry her. I want to spend the rest of my life making up for the 21 years she spent being ignored." Damien's grip on Rosalind's hand tightened. "I want to give her everything she was denied. Attention, respect, joy. I want to show her what it feels like to be the most important person in someone's world." Lord Ashworth was silent for a long moment. Then he stood. "You have my blessing," he said quietly. "Not that it matters. But you have it." "It matters to her," Damien said, "which means it matters to me." Lord Ashworth turned to Rosalind. His eyes were red, his face haggard, but something had changed in his expression, something that looked almost like recognition. "I am sorry," he said. "I know those words are not enough. I know nothing will ever be enough. But I am sorry, Rosalind, for everything." Rosalind looked at her father, at the broken man who had destroyed his own family one wager at a time, at the ghost who had haunted his own house while his daughters suffered. She should hate him. Part of her did hate him, but a larger part, the part that had survived everything, felt only sadness. "I forgive you," she said. Lord Ashworth's face crumbled. "I do not forgive Mother, and I do not forgive Vivian or Cordelia. But you—" She swallowed hard. "You were weak, Papa, not cruel. There is a difference." She had not called him Papa since she was 12 years old. He reached out, and for a moment she thought he might embrace her. But he stopped, his hand hovering in the air, as if he did not know if he had the right. Rosalind took his hand and squeezed it once. "Goodbye, Papa," she said. Then she released him and turned to Damien. "I am ready," she said. They walked to the door. Damien opened it, and Lady Helena nearly fell through. "What is happening?" she demanded. "Edmund, what have you agreed to?" "The Duke of Ravensdale is going to marry Rosalind," Lord Ashworth said. His voice was hollow empty. "He has purchased all of our debts and intends to forgive them. Lady Helena's face went slack with shock. The debts are forgiven. All of them. Lord Ashworth looked at his wife and something bitter entered his tone. Our invisible daughter has saved us. The one you called unmarriageable. The one you dismissed as furniture. She has done what Vivian never could. Lady Helena turned to Rosalind, and for the first time in 21 years her mother actually looked at her. Rosalind, she whispered, I did not. I never thought. You never thought I was capable of anything. Rosalind's voice was calm. You were wrong. She walked past her mother and into the hallway. Vivian was waiting. Her sister stood at the foot of the stairs, still wearing her silver ball gown. Her beautiful face twisted into something ugly and desperate. You cannot do this, Vivian said. It is done. He was supposed to be mine. Vivian's voice rose. I planned for months. I prepared everything. I was perfect. Perfect. And you just talked about stars. That is all you did. That is all I did. Vivian lunged forward and grabbed Rosalind's arm. You will not take this from me. Her fingers dug into flesh. You will not ruin everything I worked for. Damien moved, but Rosalind raised her hand to stop him. Let me, she said quietly. She turned to face her sister fully. Vivienne, she said, I am not taking anything from you, because you never had him. He was never interested in you, not for a single moment. That is a lie. It is the truth. And I think you know it. I think you knew it the moment you saw him dance with me at the Whitmore ball. I think that is why you have been so desperate. Not because I stole something that belonged to you, but because you realized something terrible. Vivian's grip tightened. What? That being beautiful is not enough. That all your perfect smiles and practiced charm and calculated seduction add up to nothing if there is no substance behind them. That I, the invisible sister, the plain one, the furniture had something you did not, something he actually wanted. Vivian's face contorted. You are nothing without him. Perhaps. Rosalind gently removed her sister's hand from her arm. But with him I am everything, and that is more than you will ever be able to say. She walked to the front door where Damien waited. Rosalind. Vivian's voice followed her. If you walk out that door, you are dead to me. Do you understand, dead? Rosalind paused with her hand on the doorknob. She turned back to look at her sister, at the golden hair and beautiful face that had made Rosalind feel like nothing for 21 years. I have been dead to you since we were children, she said quietly. This is just the first time you have noticed. She opened the door and stepped into the night. Damien followed, closing the door behind them. The carriage was waiting. He helped her inside and they sat in silence as the horses began to move. Are you all right? He asked finally. Rosalind stared at her hands in her lap. I just said goodbye to my entire family, she said. I just walked away from everything I have ever known. I should be devastated. Are you? She looked up at him. I feel, she said slowly, free. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. He pulled her into his arms, and she pressed her face against his chest. You never have to go back, he murmured against her hair. You never have to see them again. I will take care of everything. I know. I mean it, Rosalind. Every promise I have made I will keep. You will never be invisible again. You will never be overlooked or dismissed or hurt. I will spend every day of our lives proving that you are worth seeing. She pulled back to look at him. His face was earnest, vulnerable in a way she had never seen before. This was not the cold, aloof Duke that society whispered about. This was just a man looking at a woman he loved, terrified of losing her. Damien, she said softly. Yes, I believe you. He kissed her. Not the passionate public kiss from the ballroom. Something gentler. Something that felt like a promise sealed. When they finally broke apart, Rosalind was smiling. What, he asked. I was just thinking about the morning of the Whitmore ball, when Cordelia destroyed my dress. What about it? She told me my dress matched my future. Destroyed. Invisible. Nothing. Damien's jaw tightened. She was wrong, Rosalind said. She was so completely wrong. She rested her head against his shoulder and watched the London streets pass by the window. In a few weeks she would be the Duchess of Ravensdale. She would have a title, a fortune, a husband who loved her beyond reason. But more than that, she would have something she had never had before. A future she had chosen. A life she had claimed. A voice that would finally be heard. The carriage slowed. We are here, Damien said. Rosalind looked out the window. A massive townhouse loomed before them, its windows dark except for a few lamps flickering in the lower floors. Your London residence? She asked. Our London residence. He opened the carriage door. At least until the wedding. After that, I thought we might spend a few months at the country estate. Away from London. Away from society. Away from everyone. That sounds... Rosalind breathed perfect. He helped her down from the carriage. The front door opened and an elderly butler appeared. Your Grace, he said, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of Rosalind. Shall I prepare the guest chambers? Yes. And prepare them as you would prepare the Duchess's chambers. The butler's eyebrows rose, but he bowed smoothly. Of course, Your Grace. Damien led Rosalind inside. The house was grand in a way that should have intimidated her, but she was too exhausted to feel anything but relief. There is one more thing I must tell you, Damien said as they climbed the stairs. What is it I sent a message to my solicitor before the ball tonight? He has already begun preparing the marriage contracts. Already, I told you. He paused on the landing, turning to face her. I knew the moment I saw you. I was simply waiting for you to believe it. Rosalind stared at him. You were that certain I am that certain. What if I had refused? You would not have refused. His smile was knowing. You are too brave to spend the rest of your life hiding. She laughed, surprising herself. A few hours ago I was wearing a faded lavender dress to the most important ball of the season, she said. I do not know if that qualifies as brave. It qualifies as extraordinary. He took her face in his hands. You walked into that ballroom knowing everyone would laugh, knowing everyone would stare. And you held your head up anyway. That is not just brave, Rosalind. That is magnificent. She felt tears threatening again. I am going to cry, she warned him. Then cry. He kissed her forehead. You have earned it. She did cry. Standing in the hallway of his grand house wearing a 3-year-old dress, she wept into his chest while he held her. It was the first time she had cried in years. It felt like release. When she finally stopped, he handed her a handkerchief and smiled. Better. She nodded, dabbing at her eyes. I am sorry. Do not apologize. Not to me. Not ever. The butler reappeared at the top of the stairs. The chambers are ready, Your Grace. Thank you, Fenton. Damien offered Rosalind his arm. Allow me to escort you. They walked up the remaining stairs and down a long corridor. He stopped before a set of double doors. "These will be your rooms," he said. "Until the wedding." Afterward he paused, his voice dropping. "There is a connecting door to my chambers, should you ever wish to use it." Rosalind felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I will keep that in mind," she said. He smiled, and there was something wonderfully wicked in it. "Good night, Rosalind," he said. "The woman I love, the woman I will marry, the woman who walked into a ballroom in a faded dress and conquered every heart in the room." "Good night," she whispered. "Damien." He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it. "Dream well," he said. "Tomorrow we begin planning the wedding, and after that we begin the rest of our lives." He released her hand and walked back down the corridor. Rosalind watched him go. Then she opened the doors to her new chambers. They were beautiful, elegant, larger than her entire bedroom at the Ashworth house, but she barely noticed. She crossed to the window and looked out at the London night. Somewhere across the city her mother was raging. Her sisters were plotting. Her father was drinking himself into oblivion. And here she stood in a duke's townhouse about to become his wife. The invisible sister, the plain one, the nothing. She smiled. Let them call her nothing. She knew the truth now. She had always been something. It had just taken the right man to see it. 3 months had passed since the night Rosalind walked out of the Ashworth townhouse. 3 months of wedding preparations. 3 months of learning the complex machinery of being a duchess. 3 months of waking up each morning and remembering with a shock of joy that her life had changed forever. The wedding itself had been a quiet affair. Damien had insisted. No grand cathedral, no 300 guests. Just a small chapel in the countryside with only the necessary witnesses and a vicar who asked no questions. Rosalind had worn white silk, simple, elegant, nothing like the rose-coloured gown that had been destroyed, but somehow infinitely more beautiful. Her family had not been invited. Now, 3 months later, she stood in the grand chambers of Ravensdale House preparing for her first public appearance as the Duchess of Ravensdale. The Winter Ball. The most anticipated event of the season, and tonight all of London would finally see the woman who had captured the most eligible duke in England. "Your Grace." Rosalind turned. Her lady's maid, a kind woman named Sarah, who had never once treated her like an inconvenience, stood in the doorway. "The Duke is asking if you are ready." "Almost." Rosalind looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back at her was unrecognizable. Not because she had changed, not because she had become beautiful overnight, but because she was no longer trying to disappear. Her gown was midnight blue embroidered with silver stars that caught the candlelight like scattered diamonds. A tribute to the night they had met, a reminder of who she had always been. Her hair was swept up, revealing the elegant line of her neck. A single strand of pearls, a wedding gift from Damien, rested against her collarbone. She looked for the first time in her life like she belonged. The door opened and Damien stepped inside. Sarah curtsied and slipped away, leaving them alone. For a long moment, Damien simply stared at her. "Well?" Rosalind asked, suddenly nervous. "Will I embarrass you?" He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. "You," he said against her hair, "are the most magnificent creature I have ever seen. You have to say that. You are my husband. I have to say nothing." He pulled back to look at her, his eyes burning with something fierce and tender. "I have spent 3 months watching you become yourself, watching you shed every lie your family told you, watching you realize that you were never invisible. You were just surrounded by blind people." "Damien." "Tonight," he continued, "every person who ever overlooked you will see exactly what they missed, and they will spend the rest of their lives regretting it." Rosalind felt tears threaten. "Do not make me cry. I will ruin my face. Your face is perfect. It is not. It is perfect because it is yours." He kissed her forehead. "Now, shall we go make society weep with envy?" She laughed, surprising herself. "Yes," she said, "let us go." They descended the grand staircase together. The ballroom was already full. 300 guests, the cream of London society, all gathered to witness the formal introduction of the new Duchess of Ravensdale. The whispers started the moment they appeared. "Is that her? The invisible Ashworth sister? She looks different. She looks extraordinary." Rosalind kept her hand on Damien's arm and her chin lifted high. She had practiced this. For 3 months she had practiced walking into rooms, speaking with confidence, meeting eyes that had once slid past her like water. It was still terrifying, but she was no longer afraid of fear. The major domo stepped forward. "His Grace, the Duke of Ravensdale," he announced, his voice carrying across the ballroom, "and Her Grace, the Duchess of Ravensdale." The room went silent, and then, slowly, like a wave building and breaking, the assembled guests began to bow. Rosalind watched them lower their heads, the same people who had ignored her, the same people who had pitied her, the same people who had laughed at her faded lavender dress. Now they bowed. "How does it feel?" Damien murmured. Rosalind took a breath. "Strange," she admitted. "Like wearing someone else's skin." "It is your skin." His hand covered hers. "It has always been your skin. You are simply finally allowed to show it." They descended the remaining stairs and stepped into the crowd. Immediately people pressed forward. Introductions, congratulations, compliments that felt almost desperate in their sincerity. "Your Grace, what a pleasure. Duchess, you look stunning. We are so honored you could attend." Rosalind smiled and nodded and said all the right things. 3 months of practice had taught her the rhythms of social conversation, but her eyes kept scanning the crowd, looking for them. She found Cordelia first. Her youngest sister stood near the refreshment table wearing a gown of pale pink that should have made her look beautiful. Instead, she looked diminished, smaller somehow. Her eyes met Rosalind's across the room, and something ugly flickered in them before she looked away. And then Rosalind saw Vivienne. Her eldest sister was surrounded by a small cluster of admirers laughing at something someone had said. She wore gold as she always did, her hair piled high, her smile perfect and practiced. But when her gaze found Rosalind, the smile froze. For a long moment the sisters stared at each other across the crowded ballroom. Then Vivienne turned her back and resumed her conversation as if Rosalind did not exist. Some things, it seemed, never changed. "Your sisters are here," Damien said quietly. "I know. Do you want to leave Nummum?" Rosalind straightened her spine. "I want them to see me. I want them to watch me be everything they said I could never be." "That is my wife." He smiled. "Magnificent as always." The orchestra struck up a waltz. "Dance with me," Damien said. "Again always, for the rest of our lives." He led her to the center of the floor, and they began to dance. It was different from the Whitmore ball, different from the Hartwell ball. This time Rosalind was not a curiosity. She was not a scandal. She was the Duchess of Ravensdale dancing with her husband at her own ball, and every eye in the room watched with something that looked almost like awe. "Are you happy?" Damien asked. Rosalind looked up at him. "I keep waiting to wake up," she admitted. I keep waiting to discover that this is all a dream, that I am still in my small bedroom at the Ashworth house, staring at the ceiling, imagining a life that could never be real. It is real. I know. She tightened her grip on his shoulder. But sometimes I forget. Then let me remind you. He pulled her closer, closer than was proper, close enough that she could feel his heartbeat against her chest. You are Rosalind Blackwood, he said quietly. Duchess of Ravensdale. My wife. The woman I love more than anything in this world or the next. And you are real. This is real. We are real. She felt tears prick at her eyes. I love you, she whispered. I know. He smiled. I have known since the moment you told me the stars were more interesting than ballrooms. The waltz ended. They separated, and Rosalind became aware of the watching crowd. And then she became aware of someone pushing through it. Vivian. Her sister cut through the guests like a ship through water, her face set in an expression of determined pleasantness. Sister Vivienne said, her voice carrying just far enough for the nearby guests to hear. What a pleasure to see you. Rosalind felt her stomach tighten. Vivienne, you look well. Vivienne's eyes travelled over Rosalind's gown, her pearls, her carefully arranged hair. Marriage agrees with you. Thank you. I wanted to congratulate you personally. Vivienne stepped closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper. On your successful performance. Performance. Please. Vivian's smile did not reach her eyes. We both know what you did. You played the innocent, the overlooked victim, and you manipulated a lonely man into feeling sorry for you. It was masterfully done. I almost admire it. I did not manipulate anyone. Of course you did not. Vivian's laugh was soft and cruel. You simply happened to be in the right place at the right time. You simply happened to say exactly what he wanted to hear. You simply happened to become a duchess while your sisters struggled. Is that what you tell yourself? It is the truth. Vivian's composure cracked slightly. You were never special, Rosalind. You were never remarkable. You were invisible because there was nothing to see. And now you are visible because a man with more money than sense decided to make you his project. Rosalind felt something old and familiar rising in her chest. The urge to shrink, the urge to agree, the urge to apologize for existing. She crushed it. Are you finished? She asked quietly. Vivian blinked. What are you finished telling me what I am? Because I spent 21 years listening to you define me. 21 years believing every cruel thing you said. And I am done. You are done. I am done being invisible because you needed me to be. I am done being plain because it made you feel beautiful. I am done being nothing because you were terrified of what I might become if I was something. Vivian's face went pale. You do not know what you are talking about. I know exactly what I am talking about. Rosalind stepped closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper. You were never afraid of being overshadowed by me. You were afraid that if I ever stopped believing your lies, I might discover that I was worth something without you. And you were right to be afraid. I am not afraid of you. Then why are you here? Rosalind asked. Why did you come to this ball? Why did you seek me out? If I am so beneath your notice, why can you not stop watching me? Vivian's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I will tell you why, Rosalind continued. Because you cannot stand it. You cannot stand that the sister you dismissed has everything you ever wanted. A title, a fortune, a man who loves her. You cannot stand that all your beauty and charm and calculation added up to nothing, and my simple honesty gave me everything. That is not true. It is true, and we both know it. They stood face to face, two sisters who had never been equals, finally standing on level ground. And Rosalind realized something. She was not afraid anymore, not of Vivian, not of Cordelia, Not of her mother's disappointment or her father's failure. She had survived them. She had escaped them, and she had built a life that was entirely her own. "Goodbye, Vivian," she said. "Goodbye. I do not think we need to speak again." Rosalind kept her voice calm. "You are welcome at social functions. I will be polite, but I have no interest in pretending we are sisters. We never were. You made certain of that." She turned to walk away. "Rosalind," Vivian's voice stopped her. "Do you truly hate me?" Rosalind considered the question. "No," she said finally. "I do not hate you. I pity you." "Pity me? You are beautiful. You are charming. You are everything society values in a woman, and it will never be enough for you, because somewhere inside you know the truth." "What truth?" "That being beautiful is not the same as being loved." Rosalind met her sister's eyes. "That having charm is not the same as having worth. That you could marry a king and still feel empty because you have never learned to be anything more than a performance." Vivian's face crumbled. For a moment, just a moment, Rosalind saw something human beneath the mask, something scared and lonely and desperate. Then the mask slammed back into place. "You will regret this," Vivian whispered. "No." Rosalind smiled. "I do not think I will." She walked away, leaving her sister standing alone in the crowd. Damien found her near the terrace doors. "Are you all right?" he asked. Rosalind nodded. "Better than all right. What happened? I said goodbye." He studied her face for a long moment. "Come with me," he said. He took her hand and led her through the terrace doors out into the night. The garden was quiet, cold, empty of guests who preferred the warmth of the ballroom, but above them the stars blazed. "I wanted to show you something," Damien said. "What?" "Look up." She tilted her head back. "Do you remember," he said quietly, "the night we met? You were standing on the terrace watching the Pleiades." "I remember. I asked you if you knew the stars, and you said you had learned to find other entertainment when you were ignored at social gatherings." "I remember that too." He turned her to face him. "I have been thinking about that night," he said. "About the woman who stood alone on a terrace watching the universe while everyone else watched each other. I have been thinking about how lonely she must have been, how invisible she must have felt." Rosalind felt her throat tighten. "Damien, and I have been thinking about now. About the woman who just faced down her sister in front of 300 witnesses, who walked away with her head high and her heart whole. Who is standing beside me wearing stars on her gown, looking up at the same sky? What are you trying to say?" "I am trying to say that you were never invisible, Rosalind. You were just waiting, waiting for someone to see you, waiting for someone to understand that the woman watching the stars was more remarkable than any of the women watching each other." She could not speak. "I saw you," he continued, "that first night and every night since, and I will spend the rest of my life making certain you never feel invisible again." The tears came. She could not stop them. 3 months of joy and fear and wonder all pouring out at once. Damien pulled her into his arms and held her while she wept. "I love you," she gasped against his chest. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "Do not be terrified." He pressed his lips to her hair. "There is nothing to fear anymore. You are safe. You are seen. You are loved." They stood together in the darkness, wrapped in each other, while the music drifted from the ballroom and the stars wheeled overhead. Finally, Rosalind pulled back and wiped her eyes. "We should go back," she said. "We should. They will wonder where we went. Let them wonder." But she was smiling, and so was he. They walked back into the ballroom hand in hand. The party continued around them. Guests danced and laughed and gossiped. Champagne flowed, music played. And somewhere in the crowd, Vivienne watched her sister with hollow eyes, finally understanding what she had lost. The evening wound toward midnight. Rosalind danced with diplomats and earls and a viscount who stammered so badly he could barely speak. She made conversation with duchesses and countesses and the wives of powerful men. And through it all she felt Damien's eyes on her, watching, seeing, loving. At midnight, the orchestra fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," Damien's voice rang through the ballroom, "I want to thank you all for attending tonight. It has been a remarkable evening." The crowd murmured appreciation. "But before we conclude, I have an announcement to make." Rosalind looked at him in confusion. "Announcement. As you all know, I married 3 months ago, against the expectations of society, against the advice of my friends, against every tradition that governs matches of this kind." Scattered laughter from the crowd. "I married a woman who had been overlooked her entire life, a woman society deemed invisible, a woman her own family dismissed as plain and unremarkable." Rosalind felt her cheeks flush. "And I want you all to know," Damien continued, "that it was the greatest decision I have ever made." The ballroom went quiet. "My wife," Damien said, looking directly at Rosalind, "is not invisible. She has never been invisible. She is brilliant and brave and honest in a way that most people cannot comprehend. She speaks to the stars because people have failed her. She finds joy in small things because she was denied the large ones. And she loves with a ferocity that humbles me." Rosalind could not breathe. "So tonight, in front of all of you, I want to make something clear." Damien crossed the ballroom and took her hand. "Rosalind Blackwood is not a curiosity. She is not a scandal. She is not a social experiment or a charitable project. She is my wife, my partner, the love of my existence, and anyone who treats her as less will answer to me." Silence. Then slowly applause began. It started with one person, then another, until the entire ballroom was clapping, and Rosalind stood at the center of it all, tears streaming down her face, held up only by Damien's hand in hers. He leaned close and whispered in her ear. "They see you now," he said. "All of them. Finally." She looked out at the crowd, at the faces that had once ignored her, at the people who had pitied her and mocked her and overlooked her. They were applauding her. And she realized something. She did not need their applause. She did not need their validation, their respect, their attention. She had spent 21 years craving recognition from people who were incapable of giving it. And now that she had it, she understood how meaningless it was. The only recognition that mattered was already hers, from the man standing beside her, from herself. "Thank you," she whispered to Damien. "For what?" "For seeing me." She squeezed his hand. "For teaching me to see myself." He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it. "Always," he said, "for the rest of our lives." The ball continued until the early hours of the morning. But Rosalind remembered none of it. She remembered only Damien's hand in hers, his eyes on her face, his voice saying words that healed wounds she had carried for 21 years. When the last guests finally departed, they stood together at the top of the grand staircase, watching the empty ballroom below. "We did it," Rosalind said. "We did. I am a duchess. You are my wife." Damien pulled her close. "That is the more important title." She leaned against him, exhausted and elated and overwhelmed. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," he kissed the top of her head. "Now we live. We travel. We fill this house with children who will never ever feel invisible. We grow old together and watch the stars and remember the night we met. That sounds, Rosalind said, like the most beautiful life I can imagine. It is only the beginning. She turned in his arms to face him. I love you, she said. I will never stop saying that, and I will never tire of hearing it. He kissed her soft and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Rosalind looked out at the empty ballroom one last time. She thought about the girl she had been, the invisible sister, the plain one, the nothing who had dreamed of being seen. That girl was gone now. In her place stood a woman, a duchess, a wife, a person who had learned finally that the only eyes that mattered were her own. She had been overlooked her entire life. And now she was the woman all of England followed. Not because she had changed, not because she had become beautiful or charming or accomplished, because one man had the wisdom to see what was always there, and because she had finally learned to see it too. Come to bed, Damien murmured. Tomorrow is the first day of our forever. Rosalind smiled. She took his hand, and together they walked into their future. The sister no one noticed had become the Duchess everyone watched. Not because she had transformed into someone new, but because she had finally become who she was always meant to be. Seen, loved, whole. And she would never be invisible again.